Greetings and salutations, adventurers! Today we'll be taking a look at the Monster Keeper option. I will be a Rat-Kun. Ah! Finally! I will be Rat-Man. Yes! Rat-Man. Alright, let's take a look at the side options, shall we? We'll be using Mixtral, and let's take a look. Themes: proving oneself, the challenges of management, finding unexpected allies. Inspirations: Terry Pratchett's humorous fantasy Dungeon Keeper games, Monsters Inc. for workplace dynamics. Threat: inspections by Dark Lady Anandabelia, sabotage attempts, chaotic dungeon inhabitants, greedy, unscrupulous adventurers. Key locations: the Trap Workshop, Monster Barracks, Loot Vault, Adventurer Processing Center, Keeper One-Tooth's Cave Penthouse Office. Create frequent but manageable crises to resolve. Develop Puck's role as a snarky but ultimately helpful guide, and introduce colorful dungeon inhabitants as both allies and sources of trouble. Build tension as the player learns more about running the dungeon and the forces working against them. Allow the player to achieve victories, but always with a complication or new problem arising. Have characters remind the player of their humble origins. Oh, okay. Now onto plot essentials. You're Rat-Kun, a young Ratman apprentice suddenly in charge of the infamous dungeon Labyrinth of Woes. Your mentor, the Kobold One-Tooth, vanished on mysterious business when Dark Lady Anandabelia's upcoming inspection was announced. You took this job to prove that you and your family are more than just sword fodder by successfully managing the dungeon, and now all of your efforts are on the line. Puck, Imp 3rd Class, is bound to assist the current keeper. Snarky and mischievous, he knows the dungeon's secrets, but conveys them through jokes. He's reluctantly indolently helpful, but revels in causing minor chaos. Maldred, a haughty, dark elf woman, is head of dungeon resources and believes that in any rational world, she should be next in line to be dungeon keeper. She's not happy about having an upstart Rat-Man in charge, but is also a consummate dungeon professional. The Labyrinth of Woes is home to various monsters, traps, and magical phenomena. As temporary keeper, you must manage everything from monster disputes to malfunctioning mechanisms and wayward constructs, all while fending off greedy, deranged adventurer parties. Okay, sounds interesting. Let's get into the story now, shall we? Duck! You dive to the stone floor of the dungeon as a fireball whooshes overhead, singeing your skin. The adventuring party's mage cackles, readying another spell. Well, this is a fantastic start to your first day running the dungeon, isn't it? Puck, your impish assistant, lounges in midair, munching on a glowing mushroom. I'd help, but you know, job descriptions and all that. You scramble behind a half-melted spike trap. Can't you do something? Puck shrugs. Me? I'm just here to advise, boss. You're the big bad dungeon keeper now. An arrow whizzes overhead and pings off the wall behind you. Enough! You peek over the trap at the adventurers. A female barbarian with an oversized axe to match. Her bulging biceps is bickering with a shifty-looking halfling about loot distribution. How did they get this far? How indeed? A smooth voice cuts in. Oh, it's a girl. Maldred, the dark elf head of dungeon resources, stands safely behind cover. Her purple cave silk hose and doublet immaculate despite the chaos. One might think our traps were sabotaged. You bristle. Are you implying? I imply nothing, Maldred smiles thinly. I merely observe that since Keeper One-Tooth vanished, our dungeon's efficiency has plummeted. The Dark Lady won't be pleased during his inspection next week. The Dark Lady won't be pleased during his inspection next week. Okay, I thought I was reading that wrong. Another fireball explodes against the ceiling. Puck squints into the glow, yawning. Yeah. Prove you're not just sword fodder. Elevate your species. Don't get us all executed. We've heard it all before, haven't we? You growl, mind racing. The adventurers are distracted, but not for long. Maldred watches expectantly, arms crossed. Puck belches a small flame. Okay, you mutter. I can do this. Go back to my Rat-Man roots. We're clever. We're survivors. We're crispy if you don't move. Puck giggles as another fireball hurtles your way. You dart out from behind the spike trap, snatching a handful of glowing mushrooms scattered on the ground. With a swift roll, you hurl them towards the arguing adventurers. The halfling, in his distraction, gets hit square in the face with a mushroom, yelping as he clutches his stinging eyeballs. Seizing the opportunity, you command, "Traps, activate!" I activate my trap card! I mean, game's playing for me, let's just see where it goes. The spike trap in front of the barbarian bursts into life, spears shooting up from the ground. She roars, momentarily distracted as she leaps away from the sharp points. The mage, caught off guard, falters in his next fireball spell, giving you just enough time to dive behind the relative safety of a corner. Puck, still hovering in midair, raises an eyebrow. Nice one. Alright, here's what I wrote. You pull a lever near the corner you jumped into, yelling, "Release the kobolds!" A pack of sharp-toothed kobolds surge forth from a nearby tunnel, pelting the stunned adventurers with a flurry of pebbles and curses. Maldred's lips quirk in approval while she continues observing the mayhem from behind cover. You certainly know how to seize an opportunity, Rat-Kun, she remarks dryly. Thanks, Maldred, thanks. Here's what I wrote. You join the kobolds in throwing random things, grabbing handfuls of glowing mushrooms and tossing them with all your might. The adventurers, overwhelmed by a sudden ambush, stumble back. The mage's robe catch on a jagged stalagmite, tearing and causing him to trip. He drops his staff, which skids away, clattering against the stone floor. Puck chuckles. Looks like our little friends have things under control for now, but remember, Rat-Kun, this is just the beginning. Bro, they're not even out yet. They just stumbled back. You ignore Puck as the adventurers are still in the room, although temporarily stunned by the hail of junk being thrown at them. You scramble forward after seeing the mage drop his staff and pick it up, pointing it at the adventurers. Don't make me use this! You yell. The adventurers, momentarily taken aback by your sudden change in fortune, hesitate. The mage, still dazed from his fall, squints at you, trying to discern if you're bluffing. The barbarian, her face now a mask of fury, grips her axe tighter, but the halfling rubbing his stinging eyes seems to have had enough. Let's get out of here! You yell incoherently at the change in morale, and the kobolds join you with rousing, maniacal yells of their own, shaking sticks and banging rocks as the adventurers scramble to get away. The adventurers retreat, leaving their fallen comrades' staff behind. You breathe a sigh of relief, but your heart pounds in your chest. Puck, seemingly unimpressed, floats over to you and pats your shoulder. Not bad for a rat man, he says with a hint of genuine pride in his voice. But he said he's unimpressed. Make up your mind. Maldred steps out from behind her cover, her eyes scanning the now empty hallway. This was an impressive display of resourcefulness, Rat-Kun. Maldred's voice is stern, but a hint of respect flashes in her eyes. However, the Dark Lady's inspection is in 5 days, not a week. Our traps malfunctioning and adventurers making it this far into the dungeon is unacceptable. We must rectify this situation immediately. You go. Understood. You thank all the kobolds for their help and direct them to start cleaning up the mess. After finishing, you go to check on the malfunctioning traps for any shenanigans. Okay, I had to put malfunctioning traps in the hallway for any shenanigans because it was taking me somewhere else. So let's see where it goes. You head towards the nearest malfunctioning trap, a crushing ceiling trap, with Maldred falling close behind. As you approach, you notice the trap's activation mechanism has been tampered with. Puck flutters around the mechanism, examining it closely. Well, well, Puck smirks. It seems someone's been playing with our toys. Look here. He points at a small, almost imperceptible modification on the trigger. I have nothing to say. Let's just continue. A sabotage attempt! You mutter, anger rising in your chest. You look at Maldred, who raises an eyebrow, her expression unreadable. Indeed, we'll need to investigate this thoroughly. If someone within our dungeon is sabotaging traps, it could spell disaster for the inspection, she says, her voice low and serious. You nod, focusing on the modified trap mechanism. You decide to go to the trap workshop and talk to the foreman. You hurry to the trap workshop, Puck and Maldred accompanying you. The workshop is abuzz with goblins and kobolds laboring over various mechanisms, but the foreman, a burly dwarf named Gorim, is nowhere to be found. Gorim! You call out. A kobold squeaks in response and scurries away. You frown. Something's off. Maldred nods. Indeed, this does not feel right. Where could Gorim be? She murmurs, her eyes scanning the busy workshops. Puck, still fluttering around the trap mechanism, suddenly zips over to you. Hey, Rat-Kun, take a look at this. He holds up a tiny, intricate gear, its teeth filed down. Remember the modified trigger? I bet this came from one of our traps here. Oh no, Gorim betrayed me! Gorim, why? Or maybe not, we'll have to find out. Something fishy is going on here. You take the gear from Puck and do indeed see that it has been filed down. You look around and spot a kobold. Hey you! What happened to Gorim? The kobold flinches at your sudden attention, its wide eyes darting around nervously. I don't know, master. It stammers. Gorim hasn't been here for days, he just disappeared. You frown, your stomach clenching. Disappeared? Do you know where he went? The kobold shakes its head. No, master. Yeah, you already said that. Okay, so I'm gonna assume that... He disappeared as well as the previous creature keeper, One Tooth, wasn't it? Alright, okay. You realize that Gorim has disappeared the same time as old One Tooth. It couldn't be a coincidence, especially not so close to the Dark Lady's inspection. You think you're starting to piece it together, but you have to confirm some things and head to One Tooth's office. You hurry to Keeper One Tooth's cave penthouse office, Puck and Maldred following close behind. Climbing the long winding staircase, you can't help but notice how dusty and neglected the place looks. Reaching the top, you push open the heavy stone door to find the office in disarray. Papers are scattered everywhere, and the bookshelves have been ransacked. It looks like One Tooth was in a hurry to skip town. You shuffle papers around, most describing business dealings, but one paper caught your eye. It details malfunctioning traps that started to spring up after some of the recent raid attempts. One Tooth wrote some notes, saying he thinks Gorim might be behind it, but he had no proof. You share your discovery with Maldred and Puck. Maldred's face pales as she scans the note. If this is true, then we have a serious problem. We can't have a saboteur within our ranks during the Dark Lady's inspection. Puck, who had been quietly observing, suddenly speaks up. You know, I might have an idea. Oh yeah, Puck? Puck's eyes twinkle with mischief. I know someone who might have some information about all this. My imp buddy Sparkle works in the Adventurer Processing Center. Imp gossip is as good as gold, you know. You raise an eyebrow. Alright, let's go talk to your friend, but be careful, Puck. If this is sabotage, we can't afford any more accidents. Whatever that means. The trio head over to Adventurer Processing, where they keep tabs on the adventurers that delved into the dungeon before. Upon arriving at the Adventurers Processing Center, you notice a buzz of activity as goblin clerks scribble notes and kobold runners dash to and fro. Puck leads you to a quieter corner where a tiny imp with glittering wings busily organizes stacks of parchment. Sparkle! Puck calls out, and the imp jumps, whirling around. Puck, what brings you here, my mischievous friend? Sparkle's tiny voice is high-pitched and cheerful. Oh, I got that. I have a proposition for you. Puck grins, leaning closer. A little quid pro quo. We're looking for information about some issues in the dungeon. Specifically, missing traps, malfunctions, and certain disappearing dwarf. Actually, I'm sure you know nothing about all that. Can you just show me a log of the past adventurers that have attempted this dungeon before? You ask on a hunch. What is this? I was retrying some of the options, but this one's kind of unhinged. Sparkle's bright eyes widen. She glances around furtively before nodding. I might have heard some things. I'll trade you information for a bit of fun. My favorite. I get to flick your ear and you can't do anything about it. What is that? You roll your eyes, exasperated, but you agree to the imp's deal. Fine, one ear flick. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's funny. One ear flick, buddy. Oh my goodness. It can't continue. It's like, oh, that's too adult for us. Bro, just flick my ear. It's okay. Oh my gosh, it's not going on. What's happening? Alright. Sparkle grins, revealing tiny, sharp teeth. She zips forward and gives your ear a quick, playful flick before darting back to her spot. You can't help but wince and swat at the air where she had been. Alright, you say, trying to regain your composure. What have you heard? Sparkle's grin widens. What a mischievous little imp thing. Okay, instead I put, show me the logs now. Sparkle's grin widens. She shuffles through the parchment, her wings fluttering excitedly. Here it is, the log of adventurers from the past week. She hands you a stack of papers, her eyes gleaming with mischief. You skim through the logs, noting the party's composition, loot taken, and damage caused. One name catches your eye. Gonna change it. It's gonna say, one name catches your eye. Gorima. Sparkle pulls out a large leather-bound tome from beneath her pile of parchment. She flips through the pages, revealing rows upon rows of adventurer names, their party compositions, and their fates within the dungeon. As you scan the pages, one entry catches your eye. A young dwarf adventurer named Gorima, killed by a trap. You point at the entry, raising an eyebrow. Gorima? Isn't the trap master a dwarf named Gorim? You puzzle over. Sparkle's grin widens. Ah, Gorima, yes, a young dwarf who joined an adventuring party a few weeks ago. Died in our dungeon, quite suddenly too, crushed by a trap if I remember correctly. You frown, suspicion growing in your mind. And Gorim, the trap master, he's also a dwarf. Do you think they could be related? Maldred interjects, her eyes narrowing as she scrutinizes the log. It's an interesting coincidence, certainly. Let's go find Gorima's party members, see if they know anything about this Gorima's connection to Gorim, Puck suggests. No, we already know. There's no need, dear Puck. I'm certain this Gorima is a relative of Gorim. I think I understand what's happened now, you announce. Let's head back to the trap workshop and look in Gorim's office. You lead the way back to the trap workshop, your mind racing with the implications of the new information. Puck and Maldred follow closely behind, their expressions thoughtful. Upon reaching the workshop, you notice the same frenetic energy as before, but now it's tinged with a sense of unease. You make your way to Gorim's office, a small cluttered space nestled in the back of the workshop. If my deductions are correct, Gorim will have left a note, you say, pawing around his workshop. Your paw brushes against a piece of parchment tucked under a pile of blueprints. You pull it out and begin to read. The note is from Gorim, confessing his sabotage and revealing the tragic motivation behind it. His daughter, Gorima, had joined an adventuring party and died in the dungeon, crushed by a trap. Overwhelmed with grief and anger, Gorim blamed One Tooth and the dungeon for her death. The note continues, with Gorim detailing his plan to kill One Tooth in retaliation for his daughter's death. He had hoped that, with One Tooth gone, the Dark Lady would deem the dungeon unfit and execute the rest of its inhabitants. You share the contents of the note with Puck and Maldred, who both look shocked. This is terrible, Maldred murmurs, her face pale. We can't blame him for his grief, but sabotaging the dungeon and endangering everyone's lives is unacceptable. You sigh, setting the note down. We need to find Gorim and bring this to a stop before the Dark Lady. We don't know. He left, he said. Let's just put it like this. Let's just leave it like that. Like that. He's probably long gone, and One Tooth is probably already dead. We should focus now on fixing the problems he made. Have every kobold and goblin worker gather at the workshop, you tell Maldred. Maldred nods, swiftly issuing orders to the workshop supervisors. Soon, hordes of goblins and kobolds gather in the workshop, awaiting your instructions. You climb onto a makeshift platform, taking a deep breath before addressing your ragtag team. Listen up, everyone. Gorim has betrayed us, and One Tooth is dead. You might think Maldred might be a better fit for directing this dungeon, and while she is good with numbers and keeping things organized, I know that it takes more than that to be a leader. In 5 days, the Dark Lady will be coming, and while it might be easier to just leave the dungeon and hide and pray her wrath doesn't find you, I know that together we can fix all of the traps and get everything back into working order if you trust in me and Mildred. Monsters alone are weak, but monsters together are strong. You raise your 2 tiny fists and bump them together. So from today until the 5th day, we need to work together and fix all these traps. Are you with me? A cheer erupts from the crowd, goblins and kobolds raising their fists in solidarity. You feel a surge of pride and determination, ready to lead your fellow monsters in this challenge. Mildred gives you a small nod, respect evident in her eyes. Huck, ever the mischievous imp, grins up at you. Yay! I'm gonna say that we fixed all the traps, the Dark Lady was happy, and we all lived happily ever after. The end. Let's go. This start was actually pretty engaging for me, as you can tell by the length of this video. I think solving problems is fun for me, and this start was all about managing your people. I could see myself solving many more problems going forward, interacting with monsters, and learning how to take care of them, etc. So I'd say this one is one that I really enjoyed. As always, thank you for watching, and next time we'll be taking a look at the superhero category. Let's take a peek at what they have. So we're going to be looking at Heroes Day Off, Chimera Squad, The Rise, Surge, Crescent City Watchers, and Viral Spiral. This will be, I guess, the first time on this channel that I'm going to be doing a contemporary run-through a story, other than, I guess, my zombie one that I made. So look forward to that. Let's see what trouble we can get into. Anyways, thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye! Let's go, speech. Let's go, speech.